Gentlemen, welcome to the Human-Centered Design UAE Meetup. My name is Jonathan Steingiesser. I'm currently running the innovation team at the Early Childhood Authority in Abu Dhabi and the founder of the Meetup. We've got some bouncers, so it's not a rock concert. Nothing against rock concerts. We love those meetups, but we've got an amazing panel tonight. We do have a overflow area, so if you really want to chat and you want to get intimate with someone, then please jump across. Unfortunately, at the last event I left the clicker in Abu Dhabi. So huge thank you, round of applause to our partners, aspexx, Peter McIntosh, Jack Kidd, some of the aspexx teams in town. You probably chatted to some of them online, so great to see you. Ashley from Amsterdam, or based in Amsterdam. Big round of applause if you know her. And Jared, who's currently based in Cape Town. So great to see you, Ashley and Jared, in real life. And welcome, so part of the extended aspexx team. It's not our first meetup. We've got, since COVID, we record the events, not live, but you can watch it after. We've got 53 videos on human-centered design UAE, so if you want to catch up, and in the last 6 months or so, we've started using some good microphones. I will promise the panel I'll invest and get 4 proper microphones for next year, and hopefully the sound will only improve. We're on the socials, HCD and aspexx. It's a great way to join the conversation, to make yourself known. You're part of the community. LinkedIn, Instagram, HCD UAE, and aspexx social. So if you're socialing tonight, tag us. We've got a website that's new-ish, hcd.ae. Check it out. We're going to be doing a lot more with it. It's just a MVP at the moment. And unfortunately, our co-organizers are not here tonight. It's not just myself. There's a lot behind the scenes. Nada should hopefully make it tonight, but Chris, who does a lot of work behind the scenes, big shout out. He is currently in France on like a really nice mountain. Very cold, but beautiful. Thank you, Chris. We started back in 2013, so we have been around for a little while. In those days, I only convinced my boss and my colleague to come. There were 3 participants to our first meetup in Abu Dhabi, in Caribou Coffee, in Marina Mall. Coffee shops are terrible places for meetups because people love milkshakes and they make a lot of noise. So we grew out of there, and in the last couple of years, we've partnered with aspexx, and now we've run some great events over the years. It's been 13 years, and also organized some conferences as well, and looking forward, I'll share shortly about some of the plans for next year. 97 events, 2 conferences, and around almost 9,000 people who have registered. How many people turn up is a mystery, as you know, in meetups. And very excited, not announced, but to let you know, if you don't, that this will be the 3rd year running that we're partnering with DDX. They run conferences in, they started in Munich, but in New York, in Tokyo, in San Jose. And it's going to be a really cool conference. It's not just about internationals, and it's not a money-making exercise. It's really about the community. And we've got some amazing past speakers. Some of them are here tonight. And also we do have a few internationals. I wasn't aware, I don't know if people have heard, Elizabeth Churchill, who's ex-Google, is currently working in Abu Dhabi. I just found out a little while ago, which is pretty amazing. She's written books. She's an unbelievable behavioral scientist and designer. And it's going to be a great conference. We're also partnering with RIT, Rochester Institute of Technology in Dubai, and there's going to be an education track as well. But huge thanks again to aspexx. They're going to sponsor, like last year, the after party. So if you want to join us, that's going to, we've got 20% off for the community. The code is HCD20, but you can just do a quick Google on DDX Dubai, and you'll find it. And there's going to be workshops as well, so there's some really great value for money there. So definitely check it out. Okay, let's get started. So this is our 3rd critique. It's been a bit of an experiment, but thankfully a successful one, and we've had great feedback from the community. And we weren't sure. I chatted to Tom, one of our panelists, and I said, I'm not sure if we're going to do this. We've kind of done it a couple of times. Should we do it a third time? But I'm very glad that we stuck it out, because the first two were about visual and interaction design, which is what you typically have a critique about. And part of the mission of what we're trying to do is very much raise the bar and include service design research, content design. We didn't get any content designers submit their portfolios, but we definitely want to focus on them first. So what is a design critique? Put your hand up if you are currently running design critiques in your organizations. Come on, Kim, I know you are. Yes. So this is something that's quite common in maybe other communities and other places where design is a little bit more mature than we are. It's a structured conversation about design and research. It focuses on what's working, what's not. It's typically done by designers and researchers. And it's not about show and tell or design by committee. It's about sharing your work with others who have experience in service design, research design, and getting some constructive feedback. Why do we do them? It strengthens the quality of our work. It builds a shared understanding of the decisions we make, how we do design, how we do research, how we do service design. It improves our consistency across research, services, journeys. We stick to shared standards. It's not only a design system that's a standard, it's also how, in this particular organization, we practice service design or research. And we can grow through this constructive feedback. So, I'm going to invite up our panel. First off, James. I'm going to start from the middle. James is awesome, and I'm really, really excited that we finally have you at the meetup. We've wanted to do this for a long time, Pete, haven't we? I've known James for a little while, and he's running, yeah, please come up, James. He's the managing partner director at Engine, that have done some great service design work and really elevated, I think, if you can maybe sit there, if you don't mind, thank you, service design in the Emirates. Welcome, James. Round of applause. Linda next. We've only recently met, but we've had some really great conversations, and we've had her amazing team speak at our meetup, and she is the Director of Experience Design and Innovation at Majid Al Futtaim. Welcome, Linda.
Thank you.
And last but not least, a good ex-colleague and friend of mine, Luke, who's here, spoke very highly of Tom, and we've also had some really great discussions recently. Very excited to have you. Welcome, Tom. Tom is Experience Director at Apostrophe, and again, also really, along with Linda and James, elevating the state of design and experience design in the Emirates. So a little bit of quick guidelines. This is going to be different, right? We're not all in the same company critiquing one of our colleagues' work. But when you're running this, and I'll share with you some of these guidelines later, it's all about equal voices. Sometimes it's better for the manager or the highest paid person, the hippo, not to be in that meeting, because we really want there to be a safe space, psychological safety. All inputs carry the same weight. We want a respectful space. We don't want to interrupt anyone, talk over them. We want to critique. We don't want to solve. We don't want to just say, do this or do that. So focus on what's working and what's not. Designers, especially tonight, listen first. I've already prepped our designers. You don't need to defend your work. This isn't going to be a roasting. It's not going to be, we're not going to run you over hot coals. But it's very much about hearing the feedback, but the ultimate decision lies with you as the owner, the designer. Panelists ask, don't dictate, frame your statements as questions, observations. Standards matter, try to tie back to principles, evidence, clarity. And tonight, the big difference from a normal critique is the focus is on how you're communicating your portfolio. We're not going to talk about how you did service design or research or whatever on this particular project, but it's more, these are all hiring managers, they're all growing and have been hiring for a long time and managing teams. So if someone was applying for a job, how would they treat them? So let's start. Remember, critiques about the work, not the person. We know it's hard. Designers, those two brave designers who we've selected. Your portfolio is your blood, your sweat, your life, your tears, maybe even your life's work, right? But tonight, let's try to not take it personally and just soak it all in. So let's begin. We're going to have a quick intro by the designer. We'll then do the panel's going to critique their portfolio, and then we'll have some quick reflections. Lisa, where are you, Lisa? Welcome, Lisa. Big round of applause, bravely. So yeah, just introduce yourself, Lisa, to everyone.
Thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you so much to the lovely panel here. And hi, everyone. I'm Lisa, and I'm a service designer and also a spatial experience designer. So I'm really, really excited to see how I'm going to be critiqued tonight.
Can you tell us your current title? How many years of experience you have, just so the panel kind of...
So currently my title is service designer and I'm a freelancer, and I want to actually celebrate tonight because it's been 10 years since I've been a professional in this field. So this is kind of a celebration.
Amazing.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. You can come back down. Okay. So we're not going to go. I don't want everyone to, I've just got Chris helped me with a little bit of a selection of some of Lisa's portfolio, but the panel has reviewed her LinkedIn, her portfolio, and I'm going to start with you, James, just because you're closest to me. I did not give any of you microphones, did I? It's terrible of me. We actually, which we rarely do, have microphones for everyone, which is amazing. Thank you, Peter.
Does this work? Yeah.
So, what are some of your thoughts, observations on Lisa's portfolio?
Can I just say, first of all, it's very brave of you to do this in front of... Nobody's watching, I'm sure.
Maybe just hold the microphone a little bit.
Hold it,
Yeah.
Yes. Okay.
We can hear you in the back?
Can you hear me in the back? Woo!
Dripping.
So, Lisa, thank you for coming. It was great to see. I think one of the things that struck me was it's, from a portfolio perspective, it's structured really well. Visually good and clear, so I could work my way around the document, which was good. I guess one of the reflections I had is, I think you benefit from less is more to a certain extent. I think there's too much in there. And I think one of the consequences of that is you don't really, you sort of get a sense of everything you did, but not necessarily something that you want to say about yourself. And I think it's sort of important, I think, to sort of, when we talk about portfolio, well, when we talk about services, we always talk about what story are we trying to tell, what story are we trying to communicate. I think you've got a number of stories in there, and I think it's just what's the thread that ties all of these things together. So rather than here's everything that I've done, it's kind of what am I trying to communicate about myself here. And I think if you just reflect on that, you'd probably put less in. I think for me there was something around skills. So what was really interesting, you mentioned it here, was from an interior design background. And I think everyone comes to service design having done something else before. And you sort of bring a little bit of that with you. And I think for me, I just wanted to know how that sort of backstory has influenced the way that you approach services. And I think is Etihad Rail you had in there, which was really interesting case study. It had a big spatial element.
Yeah.
But I thought actually the story could be stronger here about the benefits that you bring from being both a service designer and from an interior design background. So I think that's an example of like one of the threads that could be stronger. Is this too much?
No, it's good.
Is this too much?
Just save something for the rest of the time.
Yes, please.
Yeah, sorry.
Maybe one more point.
this is a pet peeve of mine. But simplify some of the language. I think you described yourself as a transdisciplinary experienced designer and being eccentric. So that scared me. But I think sometimes it's really important to sort of ground this stuff. And I think a lot of the really good service design out there is about simplification. So I think that's something to embrace in the way that you sort of communicate about you and what you're about. I'll just do 3 more.
It's fine. Let's see.
I think, and Mohammed, there's a sort of theme amongst both of them, is I think sometimes you fall into the trap of telling the story of the project. Whereas I think what you should be doing is like, what's the story within the project that I want to tell? So, for instance, if it's a research piece, I'd really want to know what some of the breakthrough insights were and how you made the leap from what you found out in the research and then how that allowed you to sort of move on to the next step. So I think sometimes it's about telling the story within the story can be more powerful. And I felt like there was a lot of stuff in there, but it was sort of almost too high level to understand what some of the valuable bits were. I'll leave it at that. I'll leave these guys to come through.
Nice. No, that's really deep. Linda?
Sure, I think definitely agree with what James said. The portfolio looks great in the sense of you did a lot of things, and I can understand that what was that? Multidisciplinary, I think that's easier. So we can definitely see that, but sometimes, as James said, it feels a lot. And I think you structure it pretty well on the website, where of course the digital helps in selecting, filtering, which is something that you cannot really do in a PDF. So that part, I think it was much stronger on the website. However, what I was struggling with, because of your freelancing and your different involvement with different agencies, was to understand your role in that. Were you a consultant within an agency? Were you working as a freelancer directly with a company? And I think that's important, because sometimes, especially when you're freelancing, you're just saying, I'm a freelancer. But it's really critical, because if I know that you worked with Atelier, it already gives me like even cues of, oh, you understand the agency culture. You're exposed to very stressful deadlines. You work with multiple stakeholders. So it works more on the soft skill, let's say. I know you're problem solver and so on. I have a fellow Deloitte colleague, so whenever I read Deloitte, it already opens up a box of, okay, check. You know what I mean? So I think that you should be probably a bit more clear in your role within a company or within an agency that you work with. That will help a lot. In terms of structure, yes, I think probably understanding also where you want to play. Because, as CX designers, yes, it's very broad, but you have also a lot around like social community, innovation. So defining what you want to be recognized for, as Jane was saying, I think it's critical, because it will help you organize the portfolio better. Because I think the portfolio is like your sales pitch. And when you go to a client or to another client, it's going to be different. So you need to kind of tailor that based on who are you talking to, whether you're applying for a company, and highlight what are the skills. Because if I'm hiring a senior CX role, what I was looking for is to understand if he has like leadership skills, if he's managing a team, if he's working cross-functional, if he works with multiple stakeholders. While if I'm hiring more for a creative role, then I look into, experimentation, the storytelling, the visual quality of the output. So I think it starts with you understanding where you want to play, and that would make a huge difference in the way that you convey that message.
Nice.
Can I add
Yeah, sure.
one last thing? I think it's around innovation because, I work a lot on that, especially in the past years. And it's a space that fascinates me a lot, especially when it comes to speculative design and all of that. You mention across your portfolio, but it doesn't really show. So I think it would be interesting, especially even if there are like side projects or not paid project, freelance work. I think it would be interesting to see, the outcome. Did you develop a new framework? How you brought that to life with the artifacts? So I think that would bring that layer that you're trying to convey and the way you are trying to position yourself.
Nice. Tom?
I'd echo quite a lot of what the guys have said. I think in terms of what's working really well, the structure of the site does work really well. I found myself moving around, engaging with the content, reading what you put on the page, which is always a good sign. I like the interactive tools that you had. That made me stay there longer. I think that was a great addition to the site. I've not actually seen that before, so even though I probably wasn't the audience you're going for, I still found myself using the tool and going through that, so that was good. I also got a sense of what you can do, the skills you have, how you're positioning yourself, and then also just the breadth of your experience. I mean, you've got a hell of a lot of case studies on there, lots of varied work, really nice examples of different types of work. So I've really got a sense that this is someone with experience, who knows what they're talking about. There's a lot in there on process methods and tools, which is great. That shows that you understand the work that we do and how to apply it in different settings to different problems. But I felt that was maybe where you over-indexed a bit as well. And what I really wanted to go deeper into was the projects themselves and really understanding the reason for the work. So why did this client engage with you to do a certain project? What was the context of that work? What was happening in the market that meant that they decided to do this piece of work? What did it deliver for them as a business? How did it change their business? These types of insights I find super interesting because that really tells me I think the depth of the problem solving and the complexity of the work that you're doing, and I didn't quite get a sense of that from the projects that you put on the site. So what I would suggest is maybe looking at projects deeper for a few of your projects and thinking about how you can give a more in-depth, more complete story of the work that you were doing and why you were asked to do it. Because I think you might be, you're massively underselling the experience that you have because of that. It's really important for us to see that you understand the work, the tools, the reason we do the work in the way that we do it. But taking that extra bit of care to really explain, the depth of the problems, the depth of the business challenge, the depth of the complexity of an organization will really make the work seem even more impressive, I think. And I think you'll really actually sell yourself far better. So if I had to improve one part of the site or one area that I felt I would focus on your case studies. And probably to that point, I would want to see them a little bit further up the screen, like lead with your best projects, the one you're most passionate about, maybe your most recent project. That's normally the best work we've done. Start with that and really tell that story in a bit more detail before you obviously can highlight all the other work you've done as well.
Nice, yeah, I love that. I think one of the reflections from the last two, which were more visual interaction, was very much, I agree, you need more context and depth than you would with just a very punchy visual interaction design, but definitely less is more, like we saw also in...
I think the skill with a service design portfolio, which visual designers and product designers could do but don't do, because obviously they rely on the visuals of their work and the process they've been through, is you conduct research, you have the insights, you have the context of those client conversations, you understand the complexity within an organization. You can tell those stories in a completely different way that no one else can. that's why you're so valuable to an organization, because you really understand their organization. And I want to see that, because then I can think, okay, well, this person can understand the organization that I'm working with as well, not just conduct some research and create an ecosystem map or something.
Nice. And as Lisa is said, she's a freelancer as opposed to I'm just looking for work. James, would that differ how she tackles or what she prioritizes, or do you think it's still one and the same?
It's a good question. I think I concur with some of the. I think we need to have the faith that you understand what you're doing, but you only need to tell us once. So if you kind of go, I can take us all the way from research through to prototyping, and here's a bunch of engagements or ways that I engage, and here's some examples of that where I'm integrated. I'm taking the lead. I'm agency side. I'm supplementing an internal team. I think it's just it's sort of positioning. It's making it easy for us to understand your value and your experience in their context. So I think from a freelance perspective, you can almost productize it a bit and sort of demonstrate that projects flex different muscles and just emphasize that flex in each story. But I agree. I think it's clear that you understand the process. I always want to go, okay, I get it. Don't stop telling us. Stop telling us you did the research and then you did the vision and the blah blah blah, because we get it. And I think it's just. I think certainly with your level of experience now, I think it's really about showing how you move. We always talk about service design is really valuable in the gaps between things. So whether that be the gaps between UX and space, or business strategy and
I'm gonna put it on the chair.
Whatever else, I think that's that's part of your story, and I think that can come out more readily. So I think the principles of what we're saying apply in both instances, but I think you can probably productize your services a bit more and make it clearer how you kind of commission you through this process.
Linda, any final thoughts for Lisa?
No, I think James summarized pretty well. Especially you have your personas at the very end. Would probably bring that up and just frame it in a way that shows exactly what you can do in a nutshell, like really working end to end, connecting teams, breaking the silos. I think that's what hiring managers want to do, especially if you're looking to engage with big brands on very complex projects. I think that's what we need to know, because all the rest, the journeys, the service blueprint, the facilitation, that's pretty clear that you own it. But it's the next step, how do you show that?
Nice. Any final words, Tom, for this?
Yeah, I would just finish with the. I really like the personality piece that you had at the end of the portfolio. Talking about yourself and your journey. I would try to connect that to the work that you've done. So how has that journey been influenced by the work that you've done? So was one project about learning your craft, another project about dealing with a challenging stakeholder? Was another project more about how you then built on your leadership skills? And I think connecting that journey to the work that you've done really sort of shows where you've come from and how you've got to where you are now.
Nice. I think so. At the innovation department there at the ECA, our tagline, which I think is very much reflective of what the audience said, is simplify to amplify. So that's what I want to kind of leave you with. But thank you, panel. Any thoughts, reflections on what you've heard? Not defending, but
First of all, thank you so
Maybe
much.
just
This was great.
come up so we can see you.
This was really, really great. So these are really amazing pointers, but I had a few questions. I'll just keep it short. I wanted to understand, as a service designer with that much experience like you saw, it's really hard to pick and choose, the depth of stories that we want to put in each project. So how I tried to do that was to put these sectors, the filters that you saw, And I thought that, the person who's looking at it and they would be interested in, let's say, the digital aspect, they would only click on that. Does it not work like that? Like when you first saw it, were you overwhelmed because you said you were scared with the fluff words? I get that. So that is going for sure. But I just wanted to know, do those filters not work? And should I just reduce the amount of projects and then go in depth? Or how can that be?
Who wants to take it, panel? Sorry, you get one question. You can talk to the panel after.
Yeah.
Pete said keep it short.
Keep it short, he said. I think for me I think we're saying it does work. I think you can work it like that. I think as a service designer, I think one of the things you have to be very conscious of is generalism. So I think if you have too much in there and you kind of go, right, here's the digital product section, here's the spatial blah 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 section, here's the research, it can come across as I'm a master of nothing, but I've done a bit of everything. So I would rather see projects expressed through challenge. Because I think the benefit of being a service designer or coming from a service design perspective is you can be relatively agnostic of channel. So I think what we talked about before is like what are the challenges? So it's sort of less important to us that it's digital or a people thing, or certainly from an engine perspective, from our perspective. So that might just be another way to look at it, is sort of frame it in terms of challenge. So it might be product improvement, or how do we retain people, or and it happens to be a digital service. That might be another way into cutting it up and maybe reducing the amount of top line tags that you have, so you can sort of ladder a number of projects under a challenge.
Anything else you want to add? No?
Agree.
James covered
I think that's spot on
Okay.
what James suggested. Yeah.
Feel free to chat after to the
Thank you
panel.
so much.
Thank you, Lisa. And our next brave designer, Mohammed, please come up. Just introduce yourself, title, years of experience.
Hi everyone, I'm Mohammed. I'm a service designer. I have 10 years of experience in innovation, and I took a break to Master of Design Innovation Technology, and that was the transition into service design. That gives you context in terms of the projects that you see.
Amazing, thank you. Big round of applause, Mohammed. I'm going to start with Tom, is that okay? We'll flip. We don't have 3 portfolios, but sorry. Tom, what did you think?
Okay, Mo. There's actually a caveat, I know Mo quite well, we do work together, so I have seen this portfolio before. It obviously landed him a job, so doing something
Well
done. Mo, yeah, look, I obviously do know you quite well, so looking at this portfolio again, I do love this portfolio because I really think it does sort of kind of give you a sense of who you are, and it really kind of represents your character, and it's also different.
Just sorry for context. This is a PDF.
It is a
right.
PDF, which I
and just share a little bit as well as you're talking the differences. So Lisa did share with us her PDF and her website. But Lisa, I did want to tell you one thing. We didn't touch on it. Your PDF was 38 pages.
Yeah.
So definitely the same advice as the website in terms of that. Simplify. But yeah, what are your thoughts on PDF versus website? What would you expect?
Yeah, so I did really enjoy this portfolio because it is a bit of an experience. You turn the page. It's very elegant, and I think you've done a really good job at kind of keeping it very simple, but a good level of detail as well. I have to say though that the PDF I think is a bit of a problem. I think I actually opened this 2 days ago on my mobile, and I just can't really engage with it too well. So I do think you need to sort of look at upgrading the delivery method a little bit. But I think from a project point of view, I liked your structure. I liked the aesthetic. I think it's got a really nice look and feel to it that is easy to engage with because there isn't too much content. I think visually you've used some great imagery, especially from your projects in Melbourne, which I think really bring it to life nicely.
Melbourne.
I think what is evident though is that this is a portfolio of somebody who doesn't have a lot of professional experience. And that's a shame because you do have a lot of professional experience. You have 10 years of professional experience working for Etihad. And I think that is what you need to lean into massively because the project work that you talk about is nice. They're nice case studies. They're interesting. The content's good. But the Etihad experience from a service design point of view is what I would be really interested to hear more about because you have 10 years of working for an organization in innovation, 10 years of working on, backstage, front stage, collaborating across an organization. I mean, the number of stakeholders you must have engaged with across that time, the variety of projects you've worked on. Yes, they might not be service design projects, but you've got a perspective on an organization like Etihad that doesn't shine through in the portfolio, and I really think you need to bring that to life in so much more detail and make the link to service design from that. So, yeah, overall, I think delivery methods probably needs to be looked at. I like the case studies from a service design point of view, but I think you need to lean more into the Etihad experience.
Nice, Linda.
Totally agree with what Tom said. That's the first thing I thought because I opened the portfolio before the LinkedIn and then I'm like, okay, it looks a bit junior level. Then I opened the LinkedIn, I'm like, oh my God, he actually has so much experience in innovation, in product. I'm very curious about the cabin design that you have driving. And sometimes we think that, CX work is just about journey mapping or, connecting the CX part of an omni-channel journey that ends into the digital part. But I'm sure that in your experience with Etihad, you have so much that you can actually show in your portfolio that you might think that is not necessarily service design, but it is because actually it's about the mindset and the approach and how you put the customer at the center of your design decision that makes the difference between something that is customer experience or not. So definitely improve that part because I'm sure it's going to be an amazing portfolio. Something else, maybe it's a little bit more about the consistency of the way you presented. I loved the intro page. I think it's great because it gives us at a glance, an understanding of the project, what you did, what was your role, and I think it's very important because sometimes, especially when we work on big projects, we don't work in isolation. There's always like big teams, a lot of different stakeholders. So I think it's really important for someone who's hiring that I understand what was your role in that project. So I really appreciate that part. But in terms of consistency, I think you need to understand, do you want to treat this as case studies? And then what's the approach? How do you tell the story? Because sometimes you go through the design thinking approach. In another case studies, I see a different thing. So I think a little bit of consistency will help, making your portfolio a bit more memorable in that sense. There was one more thing.
You gotta save something for James.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Last one. Last one. I do appreciate, and it's an amazing project, the one of the Melbourne, the first one that you have. The waving, yes, exactly. Amazing. He won so many awards, and I think you're very, very proud of that. But again, depending on the context, this might be just going after the corporate project. Again, it really depends who's the audience of the portfolio. But just select the order based on that. Because if I just see that as a first one, I might just think, oh, this guy just has like academic experience. Again, you don't. So it just puts people in a mindset that is different. And then especially when we don't have time, we skip through many CVs and portfolios. I just want to remember the big things that you did. So yeah, that's it.
If you got a long list of PDFs and websites, would you discount one of them? Like you were mentioning earlier, Tom, like, yeah, you're looking on a mobile, but I mean, typically if you're doing hiring, are you looking at a mobile? Or are you looking, that was for tonight, but would you be looking at a desktop?
It depends. So I think,
Classic design.
I think for more senior roles, I'm perfectly comfortable with something that feels like it's being created specifically for the role that I'm hiring for, and that might not necessarily be a website that is more open to all. So we see quite a few,
So PDFs are okay.
PDFs are okay, but I think if for you, with a portfolio that you're using quite broadly and in a number of different ways for different roles that you're trying to get hired for, I think you need something more accessible. You might have a PDF as well that goes into more detail that's specifically for the role that you're being hired for. But I would lean on having a digital presence. Yeah.
Sorry, James, they kind of went backwards. James, thoughts?
Right.
Are you ready?
It's got a long list, huh? I'm seeing that.
I guess it was interesting because
Don't be too nice, James. Come on. Well, we warned. Well, we said you're going to be brutal.
Yeah, well, I was kind of going, what is this guy's superpower? It was really difficult to get a handle on what you were about and where your real strengths were. So I was going, is this guy an artist? Is he a technologist? Is he a researcher? Is he an academic? And it was really difficult to get a sense of who you were. And you might be all those things. But it was really difficult to get a hold on what you were about. Having said that, I think the way that you've structured each one of the stories around challenge, outcome, opportunity, etc., that was really good. Visually, it feels a bit dated. Now, in one sense, if that's what you're going for, it's kind of hipster.
He did spend a lot of time in Melbourne, right?
So that's kind of cool. But I think if your strength isn't in visual design, I'll just keep it simple. I keep it really classic and really simple. Like your overview pages work because of the simplicity of them. And I think where you try and, these sort of blocks with a sort of faded colour, I just get rid of that kind of stuff, and just kind of simplify it. I think leading the first project, although really super interesting, probably isn't the one to lead with. And there might be a different way of telling that story to different audiences. So that's just one thing to think about. It might be about community engagement, prototyping, more than the sort of the way that you've told it already. I guess you use a phrase. Sorry, I have a passion. Sorry, I can't do your apologies. A passion for pushing the boundaries of what design can achieve. So you say that on the first page. And I was like, well, how could you better connect this to the view that within each story? Because what I saw was an in-car app, cool. I saw, how to walk like Melbourne and how to stay out the sun. But I was like, where's, that viewpoint that you posit at the beginning? How does that influence the way that you've worked through these projects? I thought that could have come through much stronger. So I think, visually it's stronger. I agree with the sort of. There are some really nice flourishes in there. I love the kind of collage type style that you used to, and I thought, great, if you did this all the way through, that'd be amazing. But they feel different. I think for me, one thing to reflect on is what I liked is you had sketches. Now I bloody love sketches, and I don't think there's enough people showing their sketches, even if they don't think they're a brilliant sketcher, because it demonstrates how you think. And I think from a service design perspective, a lot of the time is, does this guy or girl think in the right way? So I think that's really important. I think you underplay a lot of that. Because I think sometimes you go, right, here's a bunch of sketches, and you go, oh cool, he's going to tell us about how he's moved from those sketches through the design process. But then all of a sudden we see something that feels like a final product. Whereas what I want to see is kind of what happened between that sketch and that thing at the end. Because that's where the meat of it is. So I think there's something to think about, which is, you talk about the challenge, but I think it's about unpacking the problem. I think you mentioned it on
Context.
which is the context of what is the problem. How do we navigate the problem, and how do we use the process to reimagine what the solution might be? And also thinking about, what was the insight, what was the idea, and then what was the action off the back of it. And I think, Lisa, that in your portfolio, it's exactly the same thing. Because I think it's really about where are these leaps that allowed you to move from what the problem was, or redefine the problem, to then understanding what a possible solution was, and then the creativity around how you execute that solution to drive whatever outcome. So I think for me it's just, I think structurally you're not too far away. I think there's a lot you could do visually. I agree with the formatting is, like, I don't have a problem with PDFs, but what I wanted from here was sort of some kind of East End London hipster music with your voiceover walking me through the PDF, because I was like, that's the vibe it gave me. So if you're going to do that, I'd go PDF 100% with an audio track underneath.
Bit of human traffic.
Yeah. Anything else? I think there's some things that are a bit throwaway that you mentioned. So you said, somewhere you say collab with UX designers. It'd be good to know what that means in practice. I think it's really important in a portfolio to not you're not selling the project, you're selling your role and you're selling you. So I think if you fall into the trap of telling the story of the project, you're sort of underselling yourself. So I think it's like, what story am I telling about me through the medium of the work that I did? I think sometimes there's a trap of saying, I haven't explained really about my role within this and what I was doing. Because I was saying, were you briefing UX designers? Were you doing this UX design yourself? Were you prototyping a bunch of things? Were you working within the team? I was left with more questions, I think.
Nice, love that. Any final words for Mohammed that you wanted to add? Peter's looking at me going, it's 0 o'clock. No, it's okay. We will have time to kind of reflect at the end. Thoughts from you, Mohammed? Do you want to come up? Reflective, not defensive?
Yeah, not defensive at all. I think I shared the portfolio with some thoughts and doubts, and I think you validated quite a bit of it, and I think in a constructive way that made me sure it's like, okay, yeah, this is the direction I need to go into to actually make it better. So thank you so much for your feedback. Really appreciate it.
Awesome.
Thank you for being so correct.
Thank you.
Awesome. Thank you, Mohammed. Round of applause, Mohammed. One thought, one challenge Mohammed had, and I think also for Lisa, myself, like especially with service design, more so than visual. As you're in an agency, a lot of this stuff is top secret. We can't share our secret sauce. We do service design better than everybody else. What is your advice to that, Tom? How would you handle that? Would you not include something? You include it at a generic enough level, but then it's too generic and it's not what all of you were saying. So
yeah, it's always tough. I mean, we're literally working on work at the moment.
Yeah,
no
that was not there. Yeah.
In the portfolio. I think you have to allude to it in some way, even if it is sort of leaving the reader wanting more about what that thing might be, whether it's sort of referring to the client in a generic but quite obvious way. I think, though, you have to try to tell the story of the role you're playing. You should be able to do that regardless of the project or the client. So talk about, like we were
James.
saying, talk about what you took from that role, what you've learned from it, what your
reflections
are exactly, and you can always talk about that regardless of the project.
Nice. If we could hold the chatter, we're almost gonna wrap it up. So a couple of, just to kind of summarize thoughts I had, and please, I do want to come to the panel for any last thoughts. And I did look at this differently from the last two that we've had that were more visual. So some tips for you: be clear and fast. You've got 10 seconds, maybe more. They're looking at many portfolios. Say who you are, what you do, and why it matters. I think that was the big difference, Lisa. You saved that for the end, but we really want to know you. I loved how you kind of framed that as a persona. Tell the story. The big difference now, it's still relevant for visual, but the big difference is we very much had in visual interaction, problem, approach, evidence, outcomes. But here, like a lot of you said, and thank you, AI, it's very much about the context and showing how you think, not just the artifacts, setting the scene a little bit more than you would normally with like a visual project or interaction design, UX. Own your part. I think this is really, really important for visual interaction. Like we show these big, long projects saying, look at this, it's amazing. But you didn't do all of it. So be humble. Don't fall into the trap of saying it all. Be specific, what you contributed, how you collaborated with others. Keep it tight, keep the structure, framing, language, visuals, as we said, consistent, easy to scan. Make it usable, present your work like a service. Clear flows, simple navigation, no noise, less is more. And like yourself, Lisa, I also have like a million projects and it's really hard. I did all these things, I'm proud of them, I want to show my diversity, but just show a few. If they want to know more, you can always show more. But be okay with having really good quality and less quantity. Can you just save the camera there from shaking too much? Thanks. Final thoughts, we're going to go ladies first. Final thoughts or advice?
Thank you. I would probably have one tip, which is at the very end, maybe add your personal project. I think as designers, we all have this because it's embedded in our personality. We can't just sit still and just work corporate or agency. You always have that side graphic project, or you did something else, or you developed something. So if it has something to do with design in the broader sense, it doesn't have to be CX design, but I think it shows passion, creativity, initiative. Nice. So I think it's important. Might be skills that you don't use daily in your work. I have a travel blog. I don't think MAF cares at all that I do, I have a travel blog and I do social media content. But that skill helps me in many other ways. And I think it's important for people to know that you're a designer as a person. Because I think we do one of the most beautiful job in the world, to be honest. So it doesn't end, or it's not a 9-to-6 job. It's like a mindset that you apply in all the aspects of your life. So if you have something strong, even if it's a side project, just add it.
Love that. Tom?
I would just say, obviously we're all passionate about service design. I think we would all agree that if it's done properly, it can really influence change within an organization that we're working with. So I would just always encourage service designers to really try to articulate that change, whether it's influencing the C-suite, changing a business model, changing a product roadmap, whatever it might be, but really lean into that, because I think that's the beauty of what we do if it's done well. So do more of that.
Nice. James, final thought?
Okay. Just two things. I would say, I think sometimes it's easy to lose sight of the fact of why we tend to do all of this is to improve things for people in the world. So I think that's why I loved your kind of first project, the art project, because it had a real human story to it. I think understanding how you're tangibly improving services or experiences for the people that use them is a really important part not to lose sight of in a lot of these projects. We think about stakeholders and businesses and bottom line, but actually ultimately we just want to make school better, get a train on time, make sure the toilet isn't dirty, for all you airport guys out there. and I think the
Or the
last thing
railway.
is and I think it's also the people that you meet on the journey as well. So how you engage the different audiences and how you sort of bring people on the journey with you is really important. I think that's an important part of the story. And then the last thing I would say is I love hearing about stuff that didn't work. And I think we're often going, this worked perfectly and it had this impact. But I think sometimes the stories where we know that the examples where you learn the most is where things have screwed up. So I think sometimes putting in some of those things is a really powerful way to sort of communicate that you get the reality of what it's like doing this work. So I'd say that, talk about screw-ups and toilets.
Love that. So just one last thing. I've got a present for all of you. This is what we used in Australia, and I've carried it with me. I didn't create it. It was created at the design team in Melbourne, funny enough, that I worked in. So HCDAE/critique. And this is just the first draft, right? You can change it, make it right for your organization. It's your critique principles and guidelines. What are the objectives, the roles, the etiquette, the session rules? The other important thing we didn't talk about, but it's really important when you're sharing something, state the maturity. I'm about to do this service design piece. I have no idea where to start. Or I've thought about this, I want feedback on this particular part of research, but this bit is fine, or I haven't got there yet. So getting your team focused and creating this as a really important ritual within your teams, be it agency or otherwise, is something I'd encourage you all to do. So hcd.ae critique or the QR code. Huge thanks to the panel and our brave panelists. And yeah, we'll just remind you again about the DDX meetup. Thank you. Peter, Jack, how was that for timing? Was good?